everyone. I'm Christine.
And I'm Miles.
And this is Unilife with Canvas Nottingham. So this week on the podcast, we have a special thing that we'd like to do. One of our favorite Canvas traditions is celebrating Thanksgiving together. Obviously, being from America, it's something that I know our team really misses, being with our families and celebrating together. And so we love gathering as the Canvas community, eating a lot of really good food, including a sweet potato casserole with marshmallows. And another thing that we do on those evenings is give people an opportunity to share what they've been thankful for from the past year. I know for me, this has been a huge source of encouragement and something that I'm really going to miss out on this year.
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite traditions, and we want to honor that tradition this year. And we all recognize that 2020 has been a very difficult year. Since we're not able to gather together as a Canvas community to celebrate in the same way, we thought it would be a great opportunity to invite some of the students of the Canvas community onto the podcast to share the things that they have been thankful for, even in the midst of a challenging season.
Yep. Can't wait to dive in. Let's go.
We are welcoming Isaac to the podcast.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Isaac. Really glad you're here. So 2020's been a really peculiar year, pretty much unlike any year of our lifetimes.
That's an understatement.
Yes, it is an understatement. But we also want to celebrate the things we're thankful for in this year. So with that in mind, what are some of the things you're thankful for?
I wouldn't say this is the thing I'm most thankful for, but I'll say something that I've been thinking about a lot recently is that I think this year has made me appreciate how easy it is to listen to music. Like for the past 10 years of my life, I've been mostly listening to music via YouTube or Spotify. But this year's made me really realize like it's so easy now to just listen to whatever music I want and I don't have to use older formats and that being more difficult. So I'd say not just that music's been really accessible as it is usually, but that I've taken it less for granted and that I've been able to discover new music and reappreciate or reconsider sort of, old favorites of mine.
Yeah. So what impact has music had in your life? Like what emotional impact or deeper impact?
Well, it's nothing like spectacular. Like it's nothing that, like I have a special case. It's just like, it's always there in my life. I would say I use it as sort of something to kind of keep up pace or kind of keep up the rhythm. It's kind of like if you ever watched the movie Baby Driver, where sort of Baby Driver is always listening to music, and he doesn't just use music, but he uses specific songs and moments and songs to sort of replicate the rhythm of his situation. That's me. Like there's certain sort of albums and songs I listen to for certain moods and certain purposes.
So what I'm hearing you saying is just like the changes over time and able to slow down and appreciate like what music has meant to you and what it now means to you.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. On top of that, what besides music, what are some of the other things you might have been thankful for this past year?
I think something I'm also very appreciative for is not just that, again, it's really easy to like talk to people online via Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever people want to use, is that there are actually people out there in my life who take the time out of their day to like even have a quick chat or a quick update, and catch up. And that's something I kind of really appreciate and how much, again, how we take for granted, just everyday sort of meetings with friends or family or peers or whoever. And I think I'm really really thankful that there's lots of people in my life who haven't, just kind of closed off into their own little worlds, even though there's nothing wrong with that, that people can even just take a minute to sort of say, like how are things or like, oh, what have you been up to recently? And yeah, it's not just that it's there, it's that it happens. Sometimes it could be a weekly thing, sometimes it could be a monthly thing, sometimes it could be even a daily thing. I'm just really happy that I have, a good support network of people to talk with, like you guys, for example, you're always wanting to listen to what me and other people are feeling or interested in or thinking. So, yeah.
So you're really thankful for the thoughtfulness of other people and them taking the time out of their days to just talk with you. I think I'm super thankful for that this year as well. Like just all the sacrifices other people have made in my life. Yeah, is there anybody really in particular you're super thankful and have built a close relationship with this year?
I wouldn't say it's been there's not a specific person, and even for groups of people that I'm going to mention in a second, there's no kind of order really. So, I've already mentioned you guys at Canvas, but it's not just that it's not both my sides of the family, both my mum's side and my dad's side. Like, I pretty much talk to my mum's and my dad's side on a weekly basis, as together as a family, and also. My housemates have been very supportive, very sort of talkative. Both, my housemates from this year, in my final year, but also last year, in my second year, our kind of camaraderie was cut short. Our camaraderie that was kind of built sort of in the first term of the last academic year was cut short because of COVID, and that was a massive shame that I couldn't spend another 4 months or so with the guys. But also just like people like just friends and peers in my department or outside of my department and course, like people who are just, how to whatever extent, a quick, I send a short paragraph on Facebook, let's say, and then maybe a few days later, even or a few weeks later, they respond, and I'm okay with that. But even not even just people that I know currently or know more currently, like I've been more in contact with people from my college and my secondary school because I simply just message how they're doing and if things are all right. And sooner or later they message back and we have a little back and forth. So I think in an ironic sort of way, the sort of distance of not being able to meet people in a kind of virtual sense or a more kind of sort of psychological sense, I've gotten a little closer because people you can't just like for me I can't just cut off from the rest of the world for long periods of time. Like I do need to check in with my friends and my family like every week at the minimum. Some people it's like it can be like every day of the week sometimes.
Yeah. So you're very thankful for the broad community you've developed this year, from housemates to family members to the Canvas
Societies
community,
as well.
societies. Yeah, you have a little bit of people all over the place, and they've all built up to make this year better. And so you're just very thankful for that. I really
Mhm.
appreciate you sharing your time with us today, Isaac.
Thank you very much. It's been
Also,
a pleasure.
I have one question from our final 5 rapid fire questions to ask you.
Okay, shoot.
What is community?
Oh, community is I would say not. It's not the. It's the thing that just came to my head is both literal and metaphorical warmth. Because if you're with a group of people, there's gonna be the room or whatever or the building. It's gonna get a little warmer. But when you're with people, whether it be, like in Canvas, like there is a real sort of sense of sort of warmth in how people talk and how people act. So I would say community is warmth or comfort, comforting warmth.
Yeah, like this warmth of you just being who you are, and that's enough.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you so much, Isaac. And thank you for joining us.
you're welcome. Hope you all have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Stay safe.
Next, we will be welcoming Alexander.
Hello.
Hello, Alexander. And just a fun fact to those listening, Alexander is one of our longest tenured Canvas students or Canvas alumni now at this point. And Alexander, this is his 5th Thanksgiving with Canvas Nottingham.
Makes me wonder why I still keep coming.
We're glad you're here, Alexander. And so we're asking everybody this same question. What are you thankful for this past year?
Suppose specifically to me, prior to currently working, I had to spend a very long time, over a year, claiming benefits after graduating. And after that time, I got a job. I spent a lot of time investing myself on learning about the business. And the income is specifically from front-facing income. They're a martial arts company. So martial arts clubs can't run too well right now. So less income for the company. I'm glad furlough exists because I still have a job for after this, as they've had to make a few cuts in places. Their main expense is staff, software developers. They're expensive. So I'm glad that after all of this, all my effort after getting the job initially hasn't gone to waste. I come back, put it back into full use. So yeah, thanks, government.
Yeah, the furlough scheme seems to be helping a lot of people out, and I'm really glad that you're one of the people benefiting from this as a way to move forward and keep your job in the meantime, while we hopefully make some long-term strides in COVID-19 world. Anything else you're thankful for this past year?
I suppose from a general overview, I'm quite thankful that the healthcare service is still going. Even through all of COVID, that doesn't mean every other ailment and whatnot has just kind of benched itself for a bit. It's still here. In some cases, worse than ever, because COVID is going to lead to other things being exacerbated. So the fact that the NHS is still able to, well, effectively do their service, they aren't paid the best. So I do view it as the equivalent of military selflessness, effectively. They're still around to do that, private and whatnot. I do have private healthcare. Yet to use it, but I have it. That's still a thing. I currently have antidepressants in my day-to-day life, so I can still get those. I don't think being stuck in the house without them would be too great. And new glasses, so I can see things better. I do stare at a screen a lot.
Yeah, all those things seem to be really valuable and add a lot of value to your life. And so I think that's really cool. And I'm super thankful for the NHS and all the people serving, be it people facing COVID to the people who are still seeing traditional patients day to day. And so I think that's really, really cool. Besides your job and the NHS, anything else that you are particularly thankful for this past year?
I suppose in a sense, kind of one of the silver lining things. This entire year has kind of helped raise awareness for kind of public space and general hygiene. While I don't think coming out of this we're all going to be, washing hands the moment we walk into every single shop, that's kind of a mandatory thing. Just generally giving people a bit of space when they're squeezing past in the street, little things like that. Coming out of this, perhaps we get to enjoy a bit more of that. And while, as I said, not walking into every shop, washing your hands immediately, people might do it, once a week now.
Yeah. All those small ways.
Yeah. Very much a silver lining thing. And I suppose last thing, the elephant in the room, of course. Yeah. Canvas. They're here. They're still doing what they always do, making life very enjoyable for students and alumni. It's a lonely time being stuck in all the time. And Canvas is there to provide events, what they call focus groups, so kind of like hobby groups, clubs, if you will. They're still providing things like that even through this time when we're all stuck on cameras. And they also give takeaways, so it's almost like the Tuesday events. I forget the name right now, but the why is it, Miles?
7-Eleven?
That's the one, which, believe it or not, ran from 7 to 11. Yes, they're still giving out meals for takeaways so that you can enjoy that aspect of the your evening.
Yeah. And we're super glad you're a part of the Canvas community. Is there a particular story or person or thing you would like to highlight from this past year?
Particular person, nothing to highlight. Well, yes, we're on the radio together, but I suppose you, Miles, you are about the primary face-to-face contact I've had throughout this year outside of family and such, or, shops, actual friend in face-to-face. So our time at the pub recently, after the first lockdown, was definitely a notable time. Got to have a nice catch-up, talk about things, even if Tough Mary's was closed that day for some reason. For notable times, definitely that. I'm thankful to have a catch-up with you outside of just a camera.
Yeah, I really did enjoy that day. And thank you for the kind words, Alexander. And now I have a rapid fire question that we ask all of our guests at the end of our podcast. What is your favorite takeaway?
Well, takeaway. When I'm on lunch, sometimes I fancy not making the food myself. So there's a sandwich shop down the road from where I live. It's gotten to the point where they know me on a first name basis, and I have to ask for the usual, and they know what the usual is.
And what is the usual?
It's a bacon and brie panini, a flat white, and one of their homemade brownies. They make very nice homemade cakes.
I could definitely go for that right now.
Well, for £7.50, but it's very nice. You've got a bit of a way to come, though, if you want it.
Thanks so much, Alexander, for joining us.
Thank you, Miles.
The next person you're going to hear from is my friend Molly. She is a student at the University of Nottingham and has been a part of the Canvas community for quite some time now. I honestly cannot remember pre-Molly times at Canvas, so it's been a while. I'm really excited for you to hear from her. Same question, similar question at least, as other people have been answering. Molly, what is something that you have been thankful for in the midst of this year?
I was trying to think of just like one major thing to be thankful for this year, and realized it wasn't about like what major thing was I thankful for, and it's actually about so this year I've been keeping a list just to remind me of all of the small things that I'm thankful for this year that have happened, and all of the small little actions and things that I can look back on just to remind me that there are still nice things happening in life. And I realized it hasn't been about what big thing can I say. It's more about like these small acts of kindness between friends and the connections I have with other people that I care about. That all of that list all comes down to like this person who I love did this, or I did this for them. It all comes down to the people and the relationships we have together, and it's so important to have them. Like this year, I'm so lucky to live with some of my closest friends that I have. Like I see them most days, and that's so important to have that relationship with people in this time where we've been so cut off from many other things. And it's something I'm so grateful for when talking to other friends who might not have that like ease of access to just people, honestly. And yeah, just these moments I can share with them like so easily, because I see them every day, and even the people who I don't live with, and like the other people who I want to see, just like you put the effort into seeing them, it somehow becomes so much better for it, almost, because like you both know you kind of need that moment together, and so you really sort of live in that moment and spend time with each other, because it's so valuable right now.
I completely agree. I think that all of us can relate to having less people interaction this year, and having a very condensed and little social bubble with the people that we live with our households, and just remembering, I think, the importance of that human connection, of really being present and showing up for those quality moments of connection that we do still have access to, I think is really important to note. I also love this list that you've been creating. I remember when you first told me about it, probably back in August or September when we were catching up, and I was so encouraged and inspired by just your intentionality to take note of the things that were good, that you were still experiencing, as a way of focusing on them. And I imagine that has been probably a source of encouragement for you in the moments that haven't been so good in this year. Has that been the case?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like, I feel like all of these things, like if you don't pay attention to them and really sort of focus in on them, you could miss them, and it feels like there's nothing. It feels like all of the good things have been taken away from life at the moment, and it's very easy to like, yeah, just focus on that, of like what isn't happening or what you don't have, because they're so like it's so glaring. Their absence is so glaring, but like it's something I've been really trying to focus on, because I can fall into that trap quite easily. So I've been sort of really trying to pick up on these small moments that are so important, because they stack up to something greater than the sum of their parts, honestly. And yeah, like you miss them if you don't pay attention, but if you notice them, then like they really do feel special. And it's, yeah, like when I'm having a rougher day or something, I'll go back to this list and like try and think of something to add to it. I'll scroll through the lot and like remember all of that stuff, and that already makes me feel better. And then I'll try and think of something to add. Each time I look at it, I try and add something new, because then it keeps on growing. It becomes, yeah, it just gets better every time.
I love that so much. Has there been a moment or memory that you can think back on where you have really experienced this community and togetherness that you've talked about?
Yeah, so like as I said, I live with people who are very important to me. So like my time spent with those guys this year has been amazing, and just as I said, the small moments that I wouldn't notice so much, because normally we'd be throwing like these big gatherings with all our friends come around and we do stuff. But like these moments I've shared with the people I live with in the quieter times, of like just simply like, we need to go outside today. The sun's out. It's garden time. We're going outside, all of us, and we're going to stand there and we're going to get some outside time, some fresh air, and look after ourselves. Because yeah, like if we can't look after each other, then we can look after our friends. And it's just like my housemate who will start dancing and making up songs just to get moving and feel some life again, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what I hear you saying is to look out for one another, to care for one another, and try our best to encourage one another to step outside and have a little fun and laugh together. And in those small moments, if as long as we keep pressing into them, then we'll be able to journey through these seasons together.
Definitely, yeah.
That's awesome. So at the end of each person, we're asking one of the rapid fire questions that we normally ask at the end of the episode. And so for yours, the question is, what is something today that you have experienced already that you are thankful for?
Honestly, my first thing is like towards even just the beginning of the day, in that someone I live with makes me a cup of tea, and it always means a lot to me, because it means even in the early hours of the day when we're still sort of getting our act together, someone else has thought of me and wanted to do something for me. And yeah, just a cup of tea, it goes a long way.
So true. I think that's important for everyone to be reminded of today, that small random acts of kindness can have a really big impact on a person's day and their life. And we all have the opportunity to be the person who shows those random acts of kindness to those around us. And that is awesome. Thanks so much, Molly.
Thank you for having me.
Our next guest is Roger, and we're so thankful that Roger is here with us. He's been a part of the Canvas community for the past couple years.
Wow.
And so thank you for joining us, Roger. And I'm going to ask you the same question we've been asking all of our guests so far. What have you been thankful for this past year?
I've been thankful for many things: my community, my housemates, and my friends, and the community around me.
That's great. That's great. Do you like your housemates? I've heard you talk a bit about them. Do you have like a story you would like to share about them?
Yeah, and there was a night where I was like, we have a free weekend, so why don't we play a board game? And they were all up for doing it, which is a nice thing to do. And they were nicely going through the games we have. We had one game called, they had Mysterium, if you heard about it. It's
Yeah.
a game about these people trying to talk to a dead person, a ghost, and trying to find out what happened. And the first time I played this is 3 years ago. I played it completely wrong. And they happily went through it, explained every single thing what you're meant to do, take it one step by step, learning how the game actually plays, and making it very enjoyable and just having a great time going through multiple games that I've not played, had some stereotypes on as well after I broke those ideas, one of them being Fog of Love. If you've heard about that one.
That sounds really cool that your housemates really sort of met you where you were at the board game and like didn't tell you to just learn the rules and get better, but just really taught you and met you there.
Yeah.
That's really cool. You also in the beginning talked about community generally. Are there other aspects of community you've been thankful for this past year?
It's all the events that people are doing online. So you've got the Canvas events, which I'm guessing Miles and Matt and the rest of the people on this podcast will tell you about constantly, which are lovely things to go to. And then I have weekly meetings with my parents at home every Sunday, and now that is even getting bigger. We're inviting a few more people, which we haven't talked for years, which are lovely.
Oh.
And also gone on some walks with people as well, social distanced, which is nice as well. I think it's lovely.
That's so great that you're able to spend some time with family and the Canvas community and other people. Do you have a favorite story from some of those places that really stands out from the past year?
So one for Canvas I've had, which is lovely, which is when we were doing the weekend away at home, which is an event. Well, I've got but this one I was doing one of the quizzes, and it's called Wiki War, one of the wiki games, but you basically have to go from one site to another website on Wikipedia without searching for it. By searching it on Wikipedia, you have to go through links to get it. One of them being, the one I remember precisely, is from Jack-o'-lantern to Strictly Come Dancing. Quite an interesting one, because I went straight to Halloween special, then Strictly Come Dancing.
Wow, you're an expert at this game, Raj. You need to teach us all how to become much better at this game, because it probably took me about 3 times the length of anybody else to finish the game.
It was just the first thing that came to my head was Halloween special.
Yeah.
So that's where it's just finding that linchpin.
Yeah, I think that's great. Do you have anything with your family that you're super thankful for?
It's just how thoughtful they are, how helpful they are being during this time. Even trying to bring people in just to speak to people we haven't spoken to. We've had last Sunday, we talked to some people which we only normally went on a yearly trip together, but that failed a year ago, so we haven't seen them for 2 years. That was a nice little
catch up. That's great. Thank you for answering our questions on thankfulness. At the end of our podcast, we always have a couple of questions, rapid fire questions. So I have 2 rapid fire questions for you, Raj. Okay. The first question is, what are you currently binging?
So I'm currently watching Markiplier videos, which I've watched before, just to remember the old memories in this bit of nostalgia. And it's just a lot of memories, because he's done so many videos, so many different types. It's very eye-opening how much he's gone through as well.
And then I have a would you rather question, which is something we always like to end our episodes on. Roger, would you rather be fluent in all languages and never be able to travel, or be able to travel anywhere for a year but never be able to learn a word of a different language?
I personally would do learn of languages, because I'm dyslexic and I've never been able to do languages. in school. They literally were just like, no, you're not doing languages, you're doing more English. So it'd be nice to be able to learn languages very easily and just talk to people like I've met from like China and stuff in Chinese, and actually learn differences, like in, because there's language and there's also the grammar of it and the slang and stuff, which will still be really interesting to see how that changes with culture.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us, Roger.
Yeah, thank you.
We're glad you're a part of Canvas.
Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to this episode of UniLife with Canvas Nottingham. We hope the stories that students and alumni shared with you today were a source of encouragement for you. We would love to hear from you, so shoot us an email at unilife@canvashouse.org. You can also follow and find out more information about Canvas, both on Instagram and Facebook at Canvas Nottingham. We look forward to hearing from you, and go ahead and subscribe so you know when next week's episode comes out. Bye.
Bye.